Hey everyone, Mr. Evans here with your pre-recorded live lesson for Unit 6, Lesson 5, Modeling Evolution.
One of the things that I'm not going to say it's a misconception, but is a little fuzzy about how people think about science is what science, whether it's biology or chemistry or physics or whatever, science creates something called a model. And a model is a smaller scale picture of what actually is. And, it's just like a model car. Let's say you have a 1967 Mustang. It's sitting in the driveway. And inside on your desk, you have a model of a 1967 Mustang. Now, it could be a really detailed model. It could be like a perfect replica of the real one sitting in your driveway, even like down to the engine parts, okay? But it is still just a model. It can be really close, but it's not the exact thing. You might be able to look at this model and predict what would happen on the real car if you tinkered with the model, but it's still just a very, very close approximation of reality. Now, in science, humans are never 100% sure about anything. Whatever you think you're 100% sure of, I want you to change that to 99.99999%. Because we can never be 100% sure about anything. We are not 100% sure that the sun will rise tomorrow. Aliens could come and steal the sun and use it to power their spaceships. Now, is that likely to happen? No. Everything we've experienced over the course of human history says that is not going to happen. We can be as sure as we can be the sun will rise tomorrow, but we are still not 100% sure. Science makes models that makes predictions. They say, okay, we got all this information, we're going to put it together into a model, a scientific model, so that we can do things, so that we can make tools, so that we can make medicine, so that we can build machines, so that we can predict what will happen if we do a certain thing. Even something like as basic that we kind of think is completely known as like a model of the human body. I mean, people have dissected and mapped and drawn and done surgery on the human body, but like when a medical student studies the body, they study pictures, they study charts, sometimes they even go into a real cadaver and do like mock surgeries. But no one's body is 100% like everyone else's. There are teeny tiny changes. So when a surgeon goes in to do some kind of surgery, maybe your blood vessels are arranged just a tiny bit differently. Maybe your liver is just a little bit more to the left, but the model that they studied is close enough that they can account for that. So it's kind of an important foundational understanding of science to know that it's not the job of science to completely 100% describe the truth of reality. Okay, that's a philosophical question that really is probably never going to have an answer. 100% truth will probably never be achieved by us mere mortal humans. And that's okay, because the best we can do is come really close to say, okay, if I do this, then this other thing will happen 99.999% of the time with reasonable surety. And if your model predicts that, and then that's what happens, and it happens again, and it happens 1,000 times, you can be reasonably sure that your model is accurate. Okay, so that's just kind of the basic idea behind scientific models. So evolution is a model. It is a theory, and I don't mean theory like hypothesis, like a guess. In terms of science, a theory is a whole bunch of observations, a whole bunch of experiments that have been done for a long, long time. And with that information, you build a model, and the description of that model is called a theory. So a theory is like the best description of something that we can get in science. It's our current best understanding of how something works. There's lots of different types of theories. There's like atomic theory. Like you've seen the picture of like the nucleus of the atom with the protons and the neutrons and the electrons with the circle around it. Like you know that, like the like the dot on Dr. Manhattan's forehead. That's a hydrogen atom on Dr. Manhattan's forehead. I went pretty deep into nerd right there, but that's okay. Anyways, that is the atomic model. Now, does an atom actually look like the drawing that you're seeing on the paper? No, it doesn't. But it's a model that allows accurate predictions. So evolution's the same thing. We've taken all this information, all the evidence from fossils and genetics and observing species over time and changes in the environment and all that stuff, and we've thrown it together into a model that describes how species adapt and change and evolve into new different species over time. So we're going to look particularly at the horse right here in this lesson. So we know that there are genetic mutations, and we know that those mutations can lead to some kind of change in an individual. Good, bad, neutral. We know those exist. Those are observed. We know that those traits can give advantages to that individual or disadvantages. That's been observed. That's an observed fact. We've also seen that if a certain animal is stronger, faster, better at foraging food, more attractive to a mate, they're going to pass that on to their offspring. Okay, but what we have not directly observed in higher organisms, meaning organisms with longer lifespans, is the divergence of one species into two completely different species. We have seen it with organisms with shorter lifespans, like bacteria and even fruit flies. Those things have a short enough lifespan that we can make thousands of generations and watch it happen. But it's harder to observe in real time because humans just don't live long enough to observe it. So we have to go back into the fossil record. We have to see how these individuals in a species change over time, and then we can see how they basically when they've diverged far enough as a species into two separate groups. We can kind of see from the fossil record that they stopped associating with each other. They had become two separate species over many generations. So look at horses. Horse genetics and horse anatomy and horse fossils and horse evolution is amongst the best studied out there. Even like more so than humans, because there's basically, the bottom line is there's big money in horses. Race horses, those things go for like half $1 million, $1 million. So knowing everything you can about the horse genome and exactly how horses work, there's a big incentive to know that stuff, a big financial incentive if you're a horse breeder, because horses go for some Benjamins. So it's like, study everything you can about horses, know where they came from, know their genetics, know which traits are good, know which traits are bad, and boom, money. There's not much bigger incentive than that. So horses, originally, if you go back far enough, and we're just going to stop at this point. You could go back farther and find other species in the fossil record that horses came from, but we're just going to go back about 53 million years to this guy right here, Eohippus. This is the ancient ancestor of the modern day horse, and it was a little animal. It was fox-like, and it foraged on the plains of North America about 53 million years ago. Now, fun fact, horses used to live on North America. They lived on the continent of North America like millions of years ago. But they actually went extinct in North America shortly before the most recent ice age. But some of them had crossed the land bridge over to Asia at that time. And then the ice age happened and closed off the land bridge, so they couldn't get there. So the two populations of horses were separated, and horses actually went extinct on North American continent, and they weren't seen again until the European settlers brought them back from Asia and from Europe. So that's kind of a fun fact. But they originated in North America, then they went extinct in North America, and then they came back to North America. So yeah, take with that what you will. But anyways, so this is a model that is based off of lots of fossils found of horses and their ancestors. And since they were originally from North America and they were like all over the place. There are lots of fossils that have been found for horses. And they were, other things ate them. So they killed them, ate them, and left their bones, and their bones fossilized, and we found them millions of years later. So anyways, this first guy right here is the oldest ancestor we're going to look at. And as the North American continent changed, as the Ice Age started to kind of take shape, the plains of North America started to change as well. There were like lots of trees and plants and fruits all over the place, but then as the Ice Age started to take hold, those kind of went away, and it became more grassy and drier. And this guy right here was not good at eating grass. He ate like fruits and nuts and berries and stuff. But as the environment started to change, and the trees went away, and the large plants went away, and the North American continent became more grassy, more wide open spaces, the Great Plains started to take shape, the horses that had broader, flatter teeth and a stronger, more solid hoof had a competitive advantage. They could run better, they could eat grass better, they could forage better. So this guy right here actually had toes. And over millions of years, the toes kind of became, a disadvantage. Toes are for gripping gripping like looser soil and running. It kind of gives you that grip on the ground. It's for clinging to stuff. If the ground is hard and dry and flat and there's like nothing to cling to, having a single hoof is better for running. It's like why we wear shoes. A shoe kind of turns your foot into a hoof because you lose your toes, and that's better for running on flat surfaces. If we're trying to climb on rocks or maybe like running barefoot through the sand, that's better. It's better if you're going to run through the sand, you can probably run faster barefoot because you can grip the sand with your toes. But if you're just running on a track, you need a shoe. Well, guess what? The horse evolved a hoof, which was a flat surface for running on dry, flat, wide open surfaces, evolved teeth, larger, broader, flatter teeth so it could kind of chew up grass easier. And over a long time, this guy right here adapted more and more to their environment until it became what we know as the modern day horse. So how do we know that? How can we draw that conclusion? How do we make a link from this little fox thing here, Echepus, to the modern day horse up here? How do we draw this connection? So if you dig down deep enough into the North American dirt and you're digging in the right place, you find fossils of Echepus. And a little bit further up in the dirt, you find fossils of this guy, which is close to this guy, but a different species, Michipus. And I don't know if I'm pronouncing these correctly. I'm not a horse evolutionary expert, but if you keep going up, you find fossils of this guy, Merycopus. If you keep going up, you find things that look less like this guy, according to their fossils, and more like the modern day horse. You can see how the bones slowly over time converge into this hoof structure, right? Furthermore, in some rare cases, you can actually find genetic material, not from something this far back, but you can sometimes find genetic material in stuff that is relatively recent. And you can also use that to draw connections in the actual genetic DNA material between the modern horse and its ancestors. And you can see how the genes are drifting. You can watch as the genetic information changes too, from generation to generation over the years. So this is our model. Now, has anybody seen this thing evolve into this thing? No, well, this thing's extinct for starters. These guys aren't around anymore. These guys are. So nobody's ever seen this happen. But there is plenty of stuff that you don't see happen that you can use your knowledge and your understanding and draw on different things that you have observed to create a model of what did happen. So that is the idea of evolutionary modeling, just using the horse as an example. So it's important to always know that science is always changing, and that's a good thing. We are finding new information and we're working it into the model. We are trying to make our model more perfect, even though we know it will never be 100% perfect. But as long as it works and it makes predictions that we can use, and we can use that information to advance technology and advance our understanding of the world, that's fine. Um, so we just looked at the horse, but that's just one example. Um, the same thing holds true for lots of different fossils that we have discovered. There are, we don't have a perfect record of every single animal that's ever lived on the face of the earth, but we have enough to develop a particular understanding of how they evolve and change over time.